Managing Director of Profile. Thank you, Marvin, Profiles International. And I'm joined by Catherine Taule, a renowned trainer and facilitator, a human resource practitioner, a generous emotional intelligence practitioner, and an ICF coach. I think I haven't done justice, Catherine, to you.
No, I think you have done justice. That is good enough.
Yes, and she is also a 5 Behaviors of a Cohesive Program facilitator. And she loves the world of people, and she's constantly working with people either to help them on their journey as being a coach, to work with organizations in the area of emotional intelligence, around organizational development, and around just being the person that can also guide human resource on what they can do to create better cultures, more cohesive cultures. So none other there's no one better to talk about this topic with real life experience than Catherine Taule. So I think we can start. We have a clear start for 5 o'clock. We'll allow the rest of the people who are joining us to join us as we continue. And we will run the presentation for about 30, 35 or 40 minutes. But I am the moderator of this conversation, and as we go along, if you have any questions that you have, please write them on the chat. Please remain muted so that we can have a pleasant experience for all of us who are listening in. I'll invite you, Catherine, to share your slides, and maybe I can do a short intro on Profiles International.
All right. There we go. Can you see my slide? Vicky, can you see my slide?
Yes,
Yes.
Catherine.
Okay.
I can see your slides. Thank you. So the webinar is in conjunction with Catherine and Profiles International. And I'd like to introduce Profiles International for those who may not know us or who may not have heard from us. We are an organization that is focused in building different cultures. In fact, our hashtag is Mold a Culture, and we would like to mold cultures for the future of work. Basically, that means that we want to develop a workplace that is ready for what is coming in terms of the future of work. And this means that we deliver a lot of assessments through the talent value chain of talent. And that is assessments at a recruitment level using the latest technology and trends when it comes to establishing job fit for your candidates, either through succession planning, identifying your high potentials, and as well as sometimes exiting the organization. We also deliver personality assessments in the Brand of Everything disc, which speak to different levels, whether you're a manager, whether you're a leader, whether you want to understand how your disc style brings itself to conflict or to EQ, that we can deliver assessments for you in your organization that are tailor-made to make you work better together. We also do a lot in the area of emotional intelligence, and I think this is one of the things we're really known for. And we do this under the Genos brand of emotional intelligence assessments and trainings. So if you're thinking about, or if you have emotional intelligence as a key competency for consideration in your organization, you might want to reach out to us, and we can give you the means of assessing your people on what level, where are they in terms of emotional intelligence, when they are coming in, and even when they're already in the organization. We can also deliver several team assessments as well as team training opportunities in the area of emotional intelligence. And this does wonders. And we have several case studies that we have prepared to show just how this helps business be able to achieve its business objectives. Then we have, last but not least, our digital learning platform, the Cross Knowledge brand. And under Profiles Academy, we have a few courses, if you are interested, that you can take to further develop your soft skills. I think they say that the studies show that 85% of success rates of task execution is attributed to soft skills, and 15% is attributed to technical skills. when you imagine that we are constantly solving problems and working with others to deliver on tasks. So overall, our promise to you is that we will help you develop an outstanding workforce, however that looks like to you. And we would wish to be a partner with you when it comes to the people that you have, who are the biggest resource of your business or of your organization, or even for your teams. If you're a team leader or you're just a team member and you would wish to have some of the programs run for your teams, you can reach out to us below and we can be able to then set up a presentation and see how we can collaborate. But this particular session is brought by the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team. And I think as Catherine takes us through it, you would understand why it's such a powerful tool when it comes to real team development, either in a department or even in a management team. So I will hand it over to you, Catherine, to take us through what you prepared for us and talk about why trust, building trust, is the foundation for a cohesive team.
Thank you, Vicky. And it's quite a pleasure to be talking about trust, because I think it's very foundational to everything we do within our teams. So I'm hoping we can have an interactive session where you can use your chat. We'll have different methods that we can interact. So please feel free to use the chat. Vicky will be there to just look at what's coming on in the chat. But let's start off with a question that will just springboard this conversation. So the question that I'd like to just ask here, and you can all see it there, up there, is what do you need to run a successful business? For you, if somebody asks you, what is it that you need to run a successful business? What would you say? Let's put some thoughts in the chat and see what is it that we need. And Vicky, you can read out to us the answers that are coming through.
I would say a team.
A team, aha. What else?
Lynette says teamwork.
Teamwork, aha. What else?
Let's hear from everyone. What do you think you need to run a successful business? A brilliant business idea. This is from Frederick Koech. Martha says capital, money, money, money. Good structure. This is from Jacqueline Masinde. Martha also says strategy. Good strategy, true. Let me check for one more before you proceed. Let's see if I can get one more from my listeners. What would you need to run a successful business? Okay, Joyce says good leadership, and Marvin says commitment and devotion. Caroline says a clear purpose. Over to you. And then, sorry, June says vision.
Absolutely. And all those things you've talked about are important. They are all important to running a business. Technology, premises, product, services, strategy, a good business idea, a business strategy. You need money, capital, finances. But all of this, even if you have the most brilliant strategy ever written, you've got a brilliant product, you've got an excellent technology and excellent strategy, all this cannot be executed without a team. So no matter how well our systems, how good our systems are, how well we've set them up, our structures, how much money we have, how brilliant our product is, if we don't have a team, then we will not actually be able to run that business. And so Patrick Lencioni, who is the author of the 5 dysfunctions of a team, says it's not finance, it's not strategy, it's not technology, it is teamwork that remains the ultimate competitive advantage, both because it is powerful and so rare. So, and it's not just, yes, you have all those things, you have this group of people who are together, but what he says is that it is cohesive teams that then helps us actually be able to run businesses successfully and actually be able to get good results. So he says creating cohesive team is both difficult and is simple. Sounds like a big contradiction. How can it be both difficult and simple? But this is where the whole conversation of, but what is a team? Because then he says you need a team and teamwork is important. So some of the people we hear talking a lot about leadership, trust, Simon Sinek says, a team is not a group of people that work together. A team is a group of people that trust each other. Just because people sit together, occupy a common space, doesn't make them a team. They become a team when they are a group of people that trust each other. And we will see why. And Stephen Covey says, the late Stephen Covey says, without trust, we don't truly collaborate. We merely coordinate, or at best we cooperate. It is trust that transforms a group of people into a team. So having said that yes, we need all these things. We need people, we need a team, we need teamwork. A team is a group of people that then needs to trust each other. So then my question then becomes, then what is trust? What is trust? When you hear the word trust, especially in the organizational context, what does it mean for you?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see some responses in the chat, or you can even unmute and say what you think. I don't think with that many we can unmute and speak, or you can put it in the chat. What is trust? When you hear trust, especially in the organizational context, what does it mean for you? Vicky, you could help us.
I'm waiting to see what we have.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm waiting to see. I haven't seen anyone saying anything about trust, but that's a really good caption about Simon Sinek saying that a team is not just a group of people. Yeah. Let me see what comes through on the chat.
What is
Let me
trust?
have your views on what is trust. What is trust to you? I think people are reflecting, they're thinking.
Okay, can I try?
Yes, please.
Please go ahead.
That is Martha.
Okay. Yes, good evening. So I would say trust is when I am able to be vulnerable to you and you do not judge me, and you are able to understand me. So I am able to, develop that trust, that relationship, that I can be myself without a fear of being judged.
And I think that's bang on the money.
Sorry?
I was commenting that is definitely what it is. Well, I was just saying that's bang on the money. I'm handing it over
Thank you.
to Catherine, but I'm just going to read some of the chat, and it said it's believing in someone completely from Jacqueline. Gladys says reliability, someone you can count on. And then Lynette says the feeling that the involved parties have genuinely good intentions for each other and the common goal that binds them like that. And then June says confidence. So coupled with what Martha has just said, I believe you have your definitions, Catherine.
Yes, and there are very many words that have come through, no judgment, vulnerable, you can be yourself. Yes. There's a lot of all those things that then have come through. So my question then is, why is it important? And Marvin is going to put for us a poll in the chat to just say, how important is trust to the effectiveness of a team? So we've said it's not judgment, it's vulnerability, I can be myself. So how important is this trust to the effectiveness of a team? I think you have
some answers coming in. We're getting about 10 people, 9. 10 people have answered. 11 people have answered, then there's all just one question. 13 people have answered, 61%. See if we can get any other reaction. I think you have over 59% of the people attending today saying that, responding to this particular question, 63% actually, and they all voted that it is very important.
So we all agree that trust, is there anybody who said it's not important or they are not sure?
No, I'm ending the poll now and I'm sharing the results. There you go.
There, wow, 100%. So everybody agrees that then trust is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So that's quite interesting because then we all seem to agree that trust is very important. And there's actually, published research that talks about why is trust so important in organization. And, a research by Harvard Business Review, this was carried out by a lady called Amy Edmondson, who talks a lot about psychological safety. And she says employees in high trust organizations report 50% higher productivity and their teams are more effective in achieving goals. Just higher trust leads to higher productivity. A research from Gallup, a lot of us have heard about Gallup, it suggests that trust in leadership and among peers significantly increases job satisfaction and retention. Again, people are more satisfied, there's more retention. Google carried out a project, they called it Project Aristotle, where they, examined various aspects of over 180 of their teams. And they focused on structure, team dynamics, team effectiveness. They just focused on a whole range of things. And the aim was to establish the attributes that made some teams consistently high performing. And the interesting thing about this result is that it identified psychological safety as the top factor in high performing teams. Psychological safety comes up as a result of trust. So where people trust, where people feel psychologically safe, it allows team members to take risks, admit mistakes, ask for help, all of which are essential for team success. Then another research shows that trust helps teams remain focused and adaptable in the face of challenges, which is crucial for long-term success. So we are in alignment, just as everybody has said, trust is very important and there is research supporting why trust is important. But having said this, trust appears very elusive because in a lot of places we hear people saying, oh, the biggest problem is trust. You talk to leaders, they say we don't have trust. You talk to employees, we don't have trust. All around, you hear people saying that we don't have trust. And the question is, so how does that show up? So I'd like us to just think of a team or organization where we have worked, where there was absence of trust. What are some behaviors that we saw? When there was no trust, what are those behaviors that made us know there's no trust? Because we hear that a lot. My workplace is not psychologically safe, there's no trust. There's all of, what are those things that we see when trust is absent? Let's hear a few. I think Marvin is launching something to help you just populate and write the words that come to mind when you think of that organization. What are some behaviors that you saw when there was no trust? Marvin, do you want to put it up? What is coming through?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, you can use the link on the chat to populate.
So just go to menti.com on your phone, or you can actually scan that QR code and then use that code to join and then put in, what did you see? What was evident? What are the things you saw? fear, disengagement. What else? What are some behaviors we saw? So we go to menti.com, we use that code and just put in the words that CCTV. Disengagement, fear, insecurity.
That
What
was
else?
funny. CCTV.
Yeah. Withholding information, disengagement, toxicity, and feel free to type more than one word.
Yeah, the withholding information is a real one. You get a lot of information silos. And of course, the thing is that the lack of realization that withholding information is also affecting the organization and the team. As someone in the chat says, a lack of sharing information, also affirming the information bid, conflict. And I think from what I'm seeing in the Mentimeter, the big one there is fear.
Yeah. So this is when there is, and fear it keeps getting bigger. Any more responses before we?
Yes, fear keeps getting bigger. No information, insecurities. Fear is the winner, backbiting, high turnover, toxicity. Wrangles. We have about 16 responses out of 22. That's about 72% of the people here. Catherine, I think you have got good data.
Yeah. So fear, people then work in an environment where they're afraid. Thanks, Marvin, for this. And Vicky, if anything comes up in the chat at any time, please just feel free.
So I'm going to hand it back to you.
Yeah, I was saying if anything comes up in the chat, please feel free to just interject. So if then that's the case, why? So we've said in the absence of trust, we judge and we feel judged. And I guess that's part of fear because we're afraid of being judged. As humans, people don't like to be judged. People are afraid to make mistakes. People are afraid of what could happen if they speak up. So in the absence of trust, people actually, they can't be themselves because you want to show up in a way that makes you feel accepted, where you don't feel that you're being judged. So in the absence of trust, that's what we see. But the other side of it is that when there is trust, team members value and feel valued. People then value each other and they feel valued. When there is trust, people can be completely open with one another without filters, admit mistakes, and ask for help. I can genuinely say, no, I don't know. And I won't be afraid that somebody will judge me. Somebody talked of vulnerability. You actually can be vulnerable. So there is then room for vulnerability because you can admit mistakes. You feel safe to ask for help. You feel safe to say, I'm not very sure what I should do here. Could somebody help me? You can really be yourself. So in the presence of trust, team members are able to really show up and be present and really be vulnerable and open about what's going on and what it is they're doing. And trust then becomes the foundation then of many things. Imagine an environment where you can show up, you're not afraid of being judged. You really can admit and ask for help. You can contribute your ideas very freely without being worried about, will people think my ideas are silly? Now, when that happens, it then becomes a building block for then it allows for people to have conflict around ideas. And what does that mean? This is not interpersonal conflict. This is conflict around where we actually can have very engaging conversations. So when teams are non-cohesive and when there's no trust, people don't contribute. People keep thoughts and feelings to themselves. We talked about withholding information. People don't make decisions. You will find a lot of lack of decision making because nobody wants to be held accountable for a decision. But when teams are cohesive and there's trust, there's more ideas, there's constructive debate around ideas. People are able to challenge each other, ask questions, bring up their own ideas, which maybe could improve on ideas that are already on the table. There's no fear or defensiveness or hostility or resentment, and people then make better decisions. Why? Because people are able to come to the table, say what they are thinking, challenge decisions, push back where they think we need to discuss something differently. They're able to actually have very healthy debates around ideas, around things that they need to do. And in so doing, they are then able to make better decisions. So when there is trust, people don't feel threatened by conflict. And in this case, being very clear, it's not interpersonal conflict, it's conflict around I can disagree, I can bring up a different viewpoint, I can think differently and actually be able to bring that up. And it is okay that you don't feel that that wouldn't be accepted. So when there is trust, then that happens. And when that happens, we make better decisions. So once trust has been established, relationships can withstand some tension. And just think about it, even about your friends. The friends you trust, really trust, you can actually, when they're doing something that you think is silly, you can actually be able to say, hey, I think the road you're going, you need to just, stop and pause. Or you can be able to say, I don't agree with what you want to do. It's not right. Because then you've established trust. That relationship can withstand tension. And when you tell the person that, they don't feel like you're attacking them. They don't feel like you're putting them down. They actually know you have their best interests at heart. So when there is trust, it allows us to actually be able to have constructive conflict in the workplace, conflict around ideas, which helps us then actually do our work better, actually be able to build on ideas and come up with better solutions and better decisions to whatever we could be doing. And as then we lean into conflict and we lean into that, what then happens is we have more committed teams. People are more committed. You find people then work towards team goals. When it is non-cohesive, people are working, I am on my own lane, I am working towards my own goals against team goals. You find pocket vetoes. Pocket vetoes is where, this statement of pocket vetoes comes from where a bill is to be passed, but it has a certain window within which if it's not passed, it automatically lapses. So those pocket vetoes of where somebody needs to approve something, they just sit on it. So they vetoed, but they didn't speak up because there's no trust, and therefore we can't engage in decisions. Bad mouthing, people wanting just my way and not being open to hear others. But when the team is cohesive and trust has been built, people are able to commit to team goals versus their own goals, and there is buy-in. Whatever people will discuss, have debates around ideas, and at the end of it, you're actually able to have buy-in around, and people then are able to commit around what it is that people want to do. So as an organization, you're able to move forward, or as a leadership, or as a team, you're able to move forward with everybody having bought in. Your idea may not have been the one that was taken, but the fact that you were given space and room to speak up, space and room to say what you think, people then are more open because they then understand there was a process. I spoke up, there was a different decision or a better decision that was taken, but they didn't feel muzzled. And commitment is not equal to consensus, because sometimes people just say, yeah, it's okay. In fact, they shrug their shoulders and say, yeah, it's okay, not a problem. But really, there is no commitment to that decision. In fact, they leave the meeting saying, I didn't agree with that decision, but since you can't speak up, I just said it's okay. There is no commitment, there's no buy-in. And when there's no commitment and no buy-in, people don't give of themselves fully towards whatever it is that they could be working on. Allow me to pause here to ask any question, comment that may come up to this place. Vicky, anything that could have come up in the chat that we
Not
can,
yet. I'm
you
just
know.
hoping you can hear me because here in Abuja, I think you can hear me. I think I'm having
Yes.
a bit of network issues, but still leading into the
No.
conversation.
We can
Yes.
hear you very clearly.
Thank you. So the one thing that I find very interesting about commitment is what you've put there in red. Commitment is not equal to consensus. Sometimes when we're trying to bring everyone along, you think that everyone has to agree. But commitment is because we have all put our ideas on the table. We've debated them thoroughly, and even you have seen that your idea has given birth to a new one because all issues have been considered. We have been expansive. So it's important to note, because sometimes when we talk about the commitment, you think it means that all of us on the table are agreeing to one thing. It's the fact that we've shared, and we can see the light. But I would like to hear from you on the group who are listening in. What for you comments you can make out of what we're sharing today, or even from your experiences? What would you like to share? You can either raise your hand up and we will unmute you, or you can write it on the chat and I will read it out for Catherine. I think the other thing that stands out for me, before we get someone to talk, is the issue of conflict, and how conflict doesn't happen until people feel that they are safe to fight. You have a question from Jacqueline. So far so good, but how can we build trust in our employee? What is that process looking like, Catherine? Because I guess there is a process. And what are some of the tips we can share that can help our listeners go back and carry out possibly one or two things that they can do to build trust over time sustainably?
Thanks, Jackie. Good question. Let's pack it for just a minute. And as we get towards the end, we'll talk about, but what can we do and what's our own responsibility towards building
trust? Yes. Okay. Anyone else who has something to share, or an experience to share of the things that we're talking about, or even additional information you'd like to give with us? We are happy to listen in. Okay, so if anything comes up on the chat, I will definitely alert you. Over to you.
All right, thanks, Vicky. So the foundation of it is trust. And as we trust, we are leaning into conflict. And as we conflict about ideas, and we are actually able to get commitment and buy-in. And when that happens, we are able, within teams, people are able to hold each other accountable. When teams are not cohesive, they exclude the subject matter in discussing the subject. So they'll, for example, talk behind somebody's back to say, that person is not pulling their weight. That person doesn't do what they're supposed to do. There'll be silos, gossiping behind people's back, blame culture. It was so-and-so, that's why we didn't do this. This happened, it was so-and-so's fault, it was that team's fault, it was that member's fault. That's what actually happens. But when trust has been built and we've risen up all the way to commitment, when there is commitment, people then are able to directly address the person and say, but you committed to do this and you didn't do, and that's the reason we're falling behind. And because trust has been built, those conversations are able to be held. People are able to listen to one another with empathy, especially if there's a valid reason why we could be falling behind. People are able to offer solutions where there's challenges, but there's also peer accountability. So it doesn't wait until the day the manager comes to say, but what's going on here? You find peer-to-peer. People are then able to hold each other accountable because they have built trust. I'm able to tell Vicky, who we are working with on a project, okay, but Vicky, you're lagging behind. You're pulling all of us behind, and Vicky won't take offense because then there's trust that has been built. So accountability then becomes not the work of just the manager or the supervisor holding people accountable, but what it then does is it allows for peer-to-peer accountability, and it also allows to self-accountability. Because we have commitment, we feel the need to be able to support the team and meet the goals that we have set as a team. So I don't sit at the back there and just say, I'm just doing the bare minimum to get by, and I'm not doing any more. But we have commitment, we have engagement, and in so doing, we hold ourselves accountable. We find our peers are easily able to hold ourselves as accountable. And even then within the structure, where if there's a leader holding us accountable, those conversations then are able to happen without, people feeling like it's an attack, somebody is just against me, but they are able to be open conversations where issues can be addressed openly. So accountability then is able to happen within the team. And accountability sometimes involves confrontation, because accountability sometimes involves telling somebody, hey, this doesn't fly. This is not working. This you can do better. So, and people take it well. And I always like to relate this to, even outside of a work context, people you trust, people who trust you, you actually are able to hold each other accountable over things. And people don't take offense when you've said you do something and you haven't done it and they're holding you accountable. People are able to take it well. Why? Because they know you have their best interest at heart. So sometimes accountability could involve confrontation. And what then happens when we do that? We are able to achieve great results, because people are able to set aside their individual needs. They're able to focus on what is best for the team. They're able to have collective results. The emphasis then becomes collective results more than it is individual results. And then we're able to have the team together being able to achieve way better results than they would have achieved had everybody just been working in a silo by themselves. So you can see it becomes a path that is a pyramid. And as we build trust, as we lean into conflict around ideas, it then builds commitment and buy-in that allows people to be accountable for results and to hold each other accountable. And as we do that, we then are able to deliver superior results. And this is what the 5 behaviors of cohesive teams is about. When you build trust, all these other things fall in place. So at the pinnacle of it is results. I don't know whether there's an organization which main focus is not, we need to deliver results. Now, if that's what we keep saying, we need to deliver results, we need to make sure we're performing well, we need to make sure our numbers go up, we need to make sure this is happening. So long as that's our focus, we need to know that it needs to start from the bottom. It needs to start from trust. The trust is the foundation if we want to get those results that we want. And we are not building trust. We may get hit and miss results, that this time we had good results. Next time is somebody needing to crack the whip to get the same kind of results. But if we want sustainable high performance, then trust then becomes the key ingredient that then enables us to be able to do that. So I'll pause here for any comments, any additions, and anybody could even feel free to share that you could have worked in a team where there was a high trust, what did you see happening, or where there was no trust, and what were some of the things that you saw happening? So Vicky, I'll just open it up to see if there's any question, anything coming up in the chat around.
Yes, there is a question by Brian saying, kindly expound on the speaking to the subject matter as opposed to talking behind person's back and the practicality of the same.
Let me go back to that. So this is around accountability. Subject matter here is, let me simplify it. So subject matter here could be the person who needs to be addressed over whatever issue it is. So when there is no trust, what happens? People will be talking behind somebody's back saying, so-and-so is not pulling their weight. So-and-so just, they deliver substandard work. So-and-so is constantly submitting reports with errors and we have to keep redoing them again. So-and-so is doing, people talk behind the person's back, you find people then getting into silos because they are like, no, as we work better together, let's focus together, and a lot of blame game. So the subject matter here is instead of directly addressing the person or directly addressing the issue, we then go gossiping starts, blame culture starts. But when trust has been built, people are able to openly address what the issue is. If it's somebody who we need to have a conversation with, we're able to have those conversations. We are able to confront whatever issues there may be, and people don't take offense, because then we all are very clear that we're working towards a common goal, and we've built a certain level of trust that enables us to move forward together. I don't know whether that makes it clearer, Brian.
I'd like to share an example, actually.
Yes.
And the practicality of the same. I hope my network is still doing great things and it's not leaving. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very clearly.
Okay. I'd like to give an example of the practicality of this. Having a problem with a group of people who invested in something together. This is not even about work per se, but it's about a group of people that invested and started working together. And they came to a decision where they needed to put money together for a certain initiative. And they talked about it for many days. And finally, it happened and they agreed to put money. But when they agreed to put money, of course, some people didn't have money. So this was a real team. The trust levels are very interesting. So some people put in money and the majority of the people didn't put in the money. So the team was not able to hold each other accountable. Why aren't you putting in money? What does that mean? It means that this project that was meant to be taken couldn't take off because it didn't have enough funds. And then what happened after that? Because there was no accountability, and which involved confrontation, people stopped coming for meetings. So even the project that was supposed to be happening, now the project wasn't happening. The group itself died, and nothing went on. So you might say that, okay, fine. What lacked in that team? First and foremost, there was, yes, the great heated debate. People wanted to do this project, but it seems like there was a basic lack of trust where people could own up and say that, okay, listen, for me, I really can't come up with this amount of money, and so the next person. So because of that lack of trust, and maybe I know that my maths is not working very well, so I don't want to confront Catherine because why she hasn't paid, because we might bring up those issues of other issues of why am I also not paying. So that lack of accountability killed the project basically. And I think we see it in teams, for example, where you are working together and you have a common purpose and a common goal. But in the beginning, you didn't brainstorm enough. You didn't break down the deliverables in a manner that everyone understood. And you didn't do the proper assignment of what does success look like. And the team has no trust, meaning it was there for the meeting. And it was there because it was part of that team. It was not there because, you're feeling the purpose of the team. What happens? People go back to their desk and they pay attention to what is currently important in front of the screen that will serve them. And the fact that I can't hold you accountable because even me, I'm feeling like even I haven't fulfilled my end of the bargain means that we build laxity in the team, and those projects are then killed. You've seen projects that every day someone reports, so what has happened? No movement, no nothing. No one even wants to talk about it, and no one wants to confront the problem. So some of these things that I've seen work is when there's one person in the team who can confront the issue and speak to it candidly. It also gives the other team members some light and some way to exhale and say, even you, even me. So if just one person can be vulnerable enough into that trust and lean into that trust, you find that it's like a contagious thing, and guys start saying, oh, even me, that was my issue, or I don't think this project really works. The reason after I thought about it, why I'm not buying in is I just don't think it really works. But we weren't saying that in the meeting. But if we all buy in, and there's that major vulnerability-based trust where we can come back and say we were wrong, or me, I was wrong, and I'm sorry. if we all buy in, I'm able to talk to Catherine. And what accountability also does, we talk about accountability as being something that helps someone else. Someone may be doing something. For example, in that chama, I could be thinking that, let me keep this money for another month. I want it to grow where it is as these guys sort themselves out. But if someone is bold enough to come and tell me, why aren't you removing your money? And we all agree to move this money. If you don't remove your money, what happens is 1, 2, 3, 4 things. And everyone here, so even me, I start seeing the light. Actually, that's very true. So me, when I withhold my money, means even you withhold your money. So all of us end up withholding our money. And yet we committed to this thing. So it brings to the light some of the impacts that we are having, even when we don't realize it. So someone may not be aware of the kind of impact their behavior is having until you confront them. And that's when they realize, oh my goodness, I was only doing this for 1 month. Then after 1 month, I saw guys are not putting in, so I decided, let me do another month. So again, ability, that's what I would say. As an example.
Vicky. Yeah, really good example of where, everybody just keeps quiet. Nobody is picking up. And we see that a lot in teams. But behind the scenes, there's groups of people having small silent conversations, but not bringing it out to the fore. And therefore, the results that we had hoped to achieve, which was the next slide, then don't get achieved because then we could not hold ourselves or one another accountable. All right. Any question? So I guess then the question comes to, so where do we start with this? Whose responsibility actually is it anyway to build trust? Is it the leader? Is it every one of us? Whose responsibility is it? Which then helps us think about, so where do we start? How does this trust start to happen? So I'm just pausing to let that settle in terms of whose responsibility is it? It's a rhetorical question, but really, whose responsibility is it? So one of the things that we think is, a very sure way for us to then begin to build trust. So one of the things, first, I completely believe is that trust is not one person's responsibility, that it's the leader's responsibility to build trust. It is HR's responsibility to make sure we build trust, because trust is not built in a day. And I'm sure all of you who work in organizations have gone to those retreats where we say, let's go have a retreat. Let's go, for 1 day, we're building trust, and you do it once. And for the rest of that year, there's nothing you do towards building that trust. And nothing happens. And so we say, no, but we've tried, but you just had this one event, you came, you ran around, jumped some hoops. That in itself then doesn't then give you that result of what's the trust you want. So where then does it begin? So the whole trust conversation has to begin with each of us individually. The trust conversation begins with each of us individually understanding ourselves, And so some of the things that I think we talked about this, one of the things is that as we then bring the best of ourselves to the team, this gentleman called Ifeanyi Enoch Onwoha says, teamwork is the secret that makes common people achieve uncommon results. Because then if I bring that best version of myself and bring trust and build trust and give trust, then the teamwork we're able to build is the secret that then makes common people achieve uncommon results. So the starting point is then being able to understand ourselves. And part of understanding ourselves is how we show up. How do I show up? And showing up is, we all have different personalities, which are a factor of nature, nurture, experiences, all, you know, our cumulative experience, but how do I show up and how does it impact? How then people perceive me, how I relate with people, and the ability then to be able to build trust. So the DISC style has 4 key personality types. There is the D, which is dominance, I, which is influence, S, which is steadiness, and C, which is conscientiousness. So dominance is direct, firm, strong-willed, forceful, result-oriented, you know, influence, very outgoing, very enthusiastic, optimistic, high-spirited, lively. You know, the people who very, you know, they have a lot to say. They bring energy to the party. You know, they bring energy to the office. Steadiness is very even-tempered, accommodating, very patient and humble. That's the S, the steadiness. And the C is they're analytical, they're reserved, you know, they're very precise, they're very systematic. So understanding ourselves becomes the first point. And why is that? People with a high D tend to be very decisive, assertive, very result-oriented. For this person, trust is built when you demonstrate competence, deliver results, and take initiative. Now, for you then, as you understand yourself, let's say you realize I'm a high S, which is steadiness, and this person is a high D. Results are important for them. So having those conversations about you understand how the other person, you first understand how you show up, but as you understand how other people show up, it actually helps you then be able to relate to people at their level, to build trust in a way that they can relate to. And a simple example I like to give is people who are high on D, dominance, they're very focused on outcome. And because they are focused on outcome, they'll be pushing hard for results. They'll be pushing hard. The person who is high on S is, you know, they are more people oriented. They want to, you know, consistency, reliability, they want to be supportive. For those two, there is potential that because this one is pushing very hard and this other one then likes to move at a steadier pace, trust will just be broken because we are different, we approach different. But once we begin to understand that about each other, we then are able to be more accommodating and more willing to then know, okay, that person moves at a much faster pace, but this person is also able to understand, okay, this person takes their time because they possibly, you know, analyze more, they consult a little bit more, and therefore we are able to work together with each other, respecting the differences that we each bring to the team. And as we understand ourselves and understand one another, it actually helps us be able to have conversations that then show respect to how the other person show up. You know, for the C, they're very analytical, they're very detailed oriented. They want to understand what's the next step, where are we going? And so, you know, providing information to that person enables them be able to move forward. So as you then understand that about that person, you then know, you know, let's be methodical, let's respect systems, let's respect processes because this is important for them. So it helps you understand, this is for me, the systems, you know, processes may not be important for me, but that's the only way then I can build trust with this person. And this person also knows maybe that's not your highest, you know, need as far as trust is concerned, but they are able then to also flex and be able to meet whatever it is that may be important for you. And as you do that within the team, the awareness of one another then helps people then be able to build the team more effectively, be able to build trust more effectively. So that's one, knowing ourselves, understanding ourselves, and begin to appreciate the differences and diversities that we bring into the team, that we are not all the same, we will not all think the same, we will not all behave the same, we will not all move forward at the same pace. As we respect that about each other, as we understand one another, it already becomes the first place for where we can start to build trust. So what else then helps us? And Vicky, please feel free to stop me at any point if there's anything that's coming up that we need to pose and talk about, or if you want to interject and add anything.
Excuse Catherine. Vicky is experiencing work.
Yes. Now I'm back. Thank you, Marvin. I'd written to Marvin to tell him if you don't hear me, it's because the network has started becoming a bit wishy-washy.
Sorry.
Thank you, Marvin. Yes, but yes, I was just agreeing with you and getting to know the different personalities in your team and how they bring themselves to the conversation of trust, and even you, how you bring yourself to the conversation of trust, how you make or you break trust with your team members also is the first starting point. I think that was a question that was asked by Jacqueline. I don't know if you've shared another tip or I can share another tip.
You can share. I mean, we can share whatever other tips. You can please feel free to go ahead.
Okay, my other tip is having intentionally placed intentional informal meetings that don't involve work. So if you have a team, one of the ways of building trust is to intentionally schedule meetings away from meetings. Sorry, not meetings, but gatherings, informal gatherings with your team where people can get to be themselves, talk about nothing but work. They can get more into a bit of social interactions and social conflict. And that helps people start to get more comfortable with each other. And that this translates back to the workplace. How I have seen this, you've noticed that, I mean, it's so interesting how when members of a team without their leader have a lot of these internal informal sessions. And when then the leader shows up, they all keep quiet because for themselves, they've done this work of being informally together, but the leader has not. So they haven't yet learned how to brush, that to go past that poise. And so that's one of the tips I would give. Intentionally setting up social something that allow people to connect. Yeah, over to you.
Thanks. I mean, and some of the others, there could be many, but some of the others we've spoken about this. There's vulnerability, being able to be willing to actually acknowledge, our mistake, admit weaknesses, be genuinely open with one another. And what Vicky says, sometimes doing that outside of office settings, helps. Sharing experiences, honest feedback, consistency, some of these things then become things that slowly build trust, but it needs to be consistently done, sharing a common purpose, and leaders who model vulnerability. One of the things what Stephen Covey talks about is a trust account. He says, we actually start to build trust accounts within our teams and with one another. And what happens is with these little shared experiences, every time we're vulnerable, every time we provide honest feedback, every time that we actually open up, we are making deposits into that trust account. As we keep making deposits, we're able to build up that account to a place where trust then becomes well built within a team. But it has to be then consistent. Does it mean that from time to time people won't slip up? They may. But if we're consistently making deposits, the little slip-ups will not erode trust completely. We are actually able to continue. The little slip-ups, we're able to look and say, okay, sorry, something went wrong there, and we get back on track. So it has to be something that we intentionally do from time to time. Seek out people, have those conversations, have those, if I want to give Vicky feedback, she doesn't then hear it along the corridor, but I actually have the conversation with her. It becomes a trust building moment. So these are some of the key ingredients that, would help us be able to build trust. But in a lot of cases, if we wait for leadership, HR, or somebody to build trust, then it may not happen because each one of us has responsibility to build trust. I'll build it with 2 people, the 2 will build with 2 others, and we are then able to form cohesion around that team in terms of how we work together. So these are some of the tips, as we understand ourselves plus this, and what Vicky said. So I don't know if there's anybody else, inviting you can add anything you want to add or ask any question or put in any comment. I'd like to just invite you to do that.
Thank you. I'm waiting on the chat. Anyone who can add anything, say anything to the conversation. We are just about to wrap it up. It's actually 7 o'clock. I know we had said 6 to 7. We would like to keep within the time so that we do not get anyone out of their schedule. So please share your final comments on the topic and any other ways perhaps that you have used to foster trust or build trust within your teams that we would also benefit from. Over to you. I see we have about 25 people on the call now. What have you done to build trust? Am I getting someone to answer? Feel free to also unmute yourself. As I say, as Kathleen said, we're not too many. Okay, I think we have moved to the comments on the session. But we do have a question from Jerry. How do you build trust with someone who doesn't want to connect with you yet you are part of the team? That's a very good question, Catherine. You want to take that one, even as I get more comments, although I've gotten a comment from Patience. This was an insightful session, most grateful. Over to you.
That's a very, it's an interesting question. Lencioni, Patrick Lencioni, who has written the book on the high five behaviors, he says, trust isn't something that can be forced or achieved overnight. So I can't force trust on anybody, and it can't be achieved overnight. But what I talked about the trust account, where slowly, as you make the deposits, as you show up in a way that is trustworthy, and they can actually see you have good intention, slowly even those walls begin to break. But it's a fact that, somebody who has put up this wall, there's possibly a reason that wall is up. And until possibly that wall starts to go down, because they then suddenly begin to realize, actually, I can trust Vicky. And they begin with very little steps of how they trust Vicky, to just see, okay, can I actually trust her? And with time, then it's able to happen. But it then becomes a long process. A long process where it won't happen in a month, in a week, in 2 months. It may take a while, but it eventually gets built. So long as there's consistency from you, who then has the awareness of the importance of trust, and you're intentionally working towards building it, even that for that person who has the wall, slowly that wall begins to come down.
Okay. Let me check if we have anything else. We have Caroline saying, thanks, Madam Tole, topic well articulated and insightful. Looking forward to many more. Thank you very much. We have Linda says, thank you for the enlightening training. Could we please have a recording of the session? I believe that will be shared. Another Carol says, great session. I agree, trust is built in small moments, the small moments of connection. Thank you very much. I think one of the other ways that you learn how to build trust is also by investing in the skills that build trust. For example, emotional intelligence is a skill set that builds trust, that helps people to build trust by being aware of themselves and aware of others and practicing authenticity and so on and so forth. So I think with that, Catherine, we can wrap up this session. Thank you so much for being with us and for staying with us until the end of the session. It is our sincere hope that it has been valuable to you and that whatever we have shared is something that you can use at your own workplace, however small, and that you can start. If you would like to know more about this program, please reach out to either Catherine or I or Marvin, who's also in the back office. Thank you so much, Marvin, for making sure that we've been going through this seamless with all the polls and everything. So you can leave us your email address as well, and we can reach out to you. You can contact us in the contact details that have been put up there by Marvin on the chat. We have our info address. We also have our telephone address, and we can help work with you towards building a more cohesive team that you would want to see. So thank you so much. Let me give a big thank you to Catherine Tole. It's always a pleasure to to have these sessions with you, and I look forward to having more with you as well. Asante sana.
Asante sana.
Thank you. So for everyone and from all of us here at Profiles International, we bid you a good evening and may you have a beautiful rest of the evening. Thank you, Helen. We've seen your email address and God bless you. We will see you at the next webinar. Take care and bye-bye. Thank you, Lynette.